Hey, welcome to the Purposely Derailed podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Marrero Wilson, licensed social worker and author. Here we ride the track with all things mental health and get purposely derailed on the ways Christ is showing up in our lives. So if you think you've got it all together or crying out for grace, tune in with someone who's right there with you and let's get through it together. This is Purposely Derailed. All right, and we are here. Hey, everybody. I am your host, Stephanie, and this is the Purposely Derailed podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and taking a chance to listen to whatever it is that I have to say. This has definitely been a journey getting here. I have been preparing and sitting kind of stagnant on this podcast for about 2 years now. And when I say sitting stagnant, I mean like I invested in everything that I was going to need about 2 years ago, and it was super inspired, and it didn't happen. So for a multitude of reasons, but needless to say, we are here now, and I am excited. I am nervous. I am many emotions. So what I kind of wanted to start with was a little bit about how the podcast kind of came to be and just some background on it, right? So Purposely Derailed is something that the title in and of itself says a lot. I think if you know me in real life, you know that I am somebody who is kind of eclectic in nature and just a little bit into everything all the time. And I've embraced that part of me. I've embraced that I'm good under pressure, and I keep up with, try to do my best to keep up with the punches. But at the same time, things that go outside of my control, things that are not in the plan or according to my plan, throw me all the way off. Now, disclaimer, I am trying really hard to do my best with my swearing, but chances are I will be swearing on here because, again, it's just authentically who I tend to be at times. I will be doing a lot of just connecting with my spirituality and mental health in general. As mentioned, I'm a licensed social worker, and so mental health and healing is something that's really important to me. I am the CEO and founder of Beneath the Healing, which is essentially that. It's the alignment of the mind, body, soul, and spirit to help support with healing. And for me, healing is very spiritual. For me, it all starts with my spirit. And the reason why is because my spirit is strong, even in the moments that my flesh is not. So Purposely Derailed is capturing me and everything that I am kind of living and going through in the moment, and really just the revelations that I'm experiencing and where I am in my life. I've had a lot of recent changes and transformations that I'm super grateful for, and I'd be very happy to share in due time. But for today, one of the biggest things that I wanted to start with was this idea of embracing disruption, right? And during this podcast, this is going to probably be embracing disruption in real time, because you may hear my pets, you may hear my cat meowing like a maniac, you may hear things, because the reality of it is that I work from home, and there are sounds, and this is not soundproof. So I'm gonna do my best, bear with me. But so for today's topic, right, and you're gonna hear my chair. This is my chair, y'all. For today's topic, today's big question is: have you ever had something that just completely throws your plans off, right? And like all the way off, not like kind of off, more so like it's just something that you were not expecting. It was something that you did not anticipate, you could not prepare for, and now you can either forfeit or you can embrace the disruption. All right. Well, I have, and let me give you an example. We had planned a trip for for our daughters. So my husband and I, we have three kids between the two of us, and our youngest, Evelyn, had she wanted to have her own kind of little summer trip. You know, her siblings had their own trips, and myself and my husband did just kind of like weekend trips. So she wanted something too, which fair enough. So we had planned for the last week of August, the last weekend of August, to take her to Maine and have her experience nature for the first time, right? Nature in that depth. And so it was all planned out. We were super excited. She was the most excited about the fact that she was going to be able to run around this massive yard that had like so much grass. And it was so beautiful. And that was like, she was just so excited about being able to run around here. Now, that for Evelyn means a couple things. Evelyn, if you followed her journey or our family at all, you would know had doctors diagnosed her with nephrotic syndrome, a chronic kidney disease, as well as hip dysplasia. And so very recently she's gotten much better with her walking and her running. And so there was a big part of that, being able to kind of just be out in this field. And she has celebrated, at this point, in February, it'll be 3 years in remission from nephrotic syndrome. So yay! So needless to say, she's been the best that she's ever been, and she will continue that way in God's name. And so we're all excited about this trip to Maine and all the things that we're going to do, and the running around and, going on little nature walks and all of that, getting all the things. And that same week, on that Monday, we were going to leave on a Friday. On that Monday, Evelyn slipped going up the stairs, and she was on the third step, and she slipped and she got a hairline fracture in her foot. And on that Friday, so she went to the ER on Monday with my husband. On that Friday was her appointment to get a cast, and it was a walking cast, so that was great. But essentially the week immediately looked different. We're like, holy smokes, like, it's the first time I've ever said holy smokes. All because I tried not to swear, y'all. Okay, anyway. So, she went to the ER and they saw the hairline fracture, and so it was wrapped, and we're like, okay. So I remember going to her appointment on that Friday and saying, I'm taking both her shoes. I'm not taking just one, I'm taking both, because she's not going to need anything. She's going to be just fine. And so, at the same time, how much faith did I really have, right? Because I also was adamant about buying a wheelchair. Why? Because when she got home from the hospital, from the ER, they had given her crutches. And again, with the hip dysplasia, her weaker hip was the one that was carrying all the weight right now, because she injured her stronger foot. So I'm like, this isn't realistic. Like, when we go to Maine, she's not going to be able to walk around, and that's going to be on level, and with the crutches and all that, like, we need to get our wheelchair. So immediately, what did I do? I already claimed that Maine was going to be harder. I already claimed out loud, with my voice, with my words, that she wasn't going to be able to enjoy it the same. Okay? So I said that. Then comes Friday, and I'm like, nope, I'm walking in faith. All right? I'm bringing her shoe. She is not going to need it. God met me halfway. And why? Because I didn't start with faith. When it came time for the appointment was when I decided to really walk in that faith and say, no, I'm bringing the shoe because she's not going to need a cast. And so I was flip-floppy. Right. Well, we had the wheelchair. We got to Maine. Cool, all the things. And it looked different. It was a different experience. First off, no hate, no shade. But they had wood flooring and they painted it, which meant that Evelyn was slipping and sliding all over the place. And it just resulted in one of us needing to hold her hand every single time she was walking, because I was not well. And there was this little loft bedroom that she was really excited about, spending time up there and everything. And it looked different kind of going up those stairs. That was harder, and being able to come down. So it was just, everything looked different. Everything, the initial plan was disrupted. The initial plan that we planned, right? And it forced us to relinquish control and adapt. And I think that was a lesson in and of itself, right? Or so I thought. And so I've recently, so I took the month of August off of social media for my sanity. August is my birthday. I turned 33 this year, and I felt so compelled to just stop letting myself be exposed to all the different and vast opinions and information on social media at such a fast rate, right? And I don't even go on TikTok or anything like that. Like, it really is just kind of Facebook, like the grandparents of social media, or would the grandparent be? No, I guess MySpace would be the ancestor. So anyway, I don't even do social media that much, but Facebook was my choice of vice, of social media vice. And I didn't want that. So I said, okay, I am going to create something for Beneath the Healing that'll be out. I did 31 days of self-care, and I shared that on social media while I was off of it. And I only allowed myself the time to go on to share those posts because it was affirmations and prompts and mindfulness activities for healing, for self-care. And that's what I was living in for that month. And a lot of amazing things happened. So I drew a lot closer to God in that way, because I was no longer entertaining distractions, right? So I was very present, and I've been just very faithful in God my entire life, but I never understood what it meant to have a direct relationship, right? So I grew up Catholic. I still have Catholic roots, I guess, right? And I love that part of me, but I'm on a different kind of journey in regards to just understanding what it means to be a Christian. And that's kind of hard to say out loud, in the sense of, like, I feel like there's so much religion automatically tethered to saying I'm Christian, that almost makes me say I'd rather prefer saying Catholic, right? Labels, funny things. But needless to say, I'm trying to walk with Christ, y'all. In a nutshell, I'm trying my best to walk with Christ. And so being out there in Maine with my husband and Evelyn, I had a moment where, so one thing about me is I love the water. To me, that is very healing. Anywhere we stay that's like a cabin or anything like that has to have access to water. And so I was out by this body of water. Lake. It was a lake. Yes, it was a lake. And I had my Bible, and I am new to actually reading and grabbing this information in the context I am meant to grab it in, right? I've studied on and off throughout my life, but never really formulated a relationship or developed a relationship or an understanding of what this book meant for me, right? So I'm new to the Bible study, and I actually have been using this book that's called The Bible in 52 Weeks, a year-long Bible study for women, written by Dr. Kimberly D. Moore. And I like it because it's interactive. It's having me reflect on certain things, ask questions, right? And so I like that. And so while I was out there, one thing that I noticed was my patience, y'all, was non-existent. Here I am talking about, okay. You know what's crazy is that when Evelyn injured her foot that week, we're like, well, we're still going to go to Maine. Like, it's just going to look different. We're going. And, it was so easy to say it. It wasn't easy to do it. And I say that because I can be very patient, and then I also am not. guess in a nutshell, right? So there were certain things that, for example, Evelyn doesn't like bugs. And I'm like, girl, we're in the middle of nowhere in a cabin. Like, what did you think? And then I had to step back and say, well, she's never been in the middle of nowhere in a cabin. So what do you think? You know? So it was a lot of that I started to experience. And so when I was on the rocks with the Bible and I was reading, one of the things that I just had to ask God for some divine intervention and, just some guidance around patience. And I remember just praying for God to please, please, please just intervene in my life and help me when it comes to my level of patience, right? Y'all, I'm a therapist, okay? And I'm patient. I'm super patient. For the most part, I am pretty damn patient. But I think that in the moments that I feel like I'm inadequate, revealing, it's really hard to be patient. So being in Maine and seeing that, I didn't prepare Evelyn to understand bugs were going to be a thing, or I can't take away the thing that she just went through, so I can't make this any easier. It makes it hard to be patient, not with her, but with me. And I am projecting it onto her or anyone else around me. And so I apologize. I'm about to grab my tea and drink some. And I don't know what kind of sound that's going to make on this magnificent mic. So I'm going to pull away. Okay. The other part is like disclaimer. I'm trying not to edit any of this because I can't. Nope. I just can't. Maybe at some point, but not right now. So anyway, I was recognizing that my prayer to God was asking him to intervene and learning how to be patient with myself and give myself grace, right? Because when things don't go according to plan for me, it feels like I was unprepared. It feels like I missed the mark or I did something wrong. And that's not the case. There's only so much in my control, and it's his will for my life, right? Not my own. And in those moments, it's like I need peace that surpasses all understanding. And I need to allow that peace to be what fills me with patience. And so, I'm praying all that, and it shifted my mood, and I was a lot more mindful and a lot more present with Evelyn and my husband. And then I came home. All right. And I must have forgot what I prayed, y'all. Because when I tell you a test of patience has been present in my life, like every single day since getting home, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. My expectations, for whatever reason, have amplified, and my patience has decreased. Now, anyone could say, like, God, I asked you to help me with my patience. Like, what is this? And this is where we get caught up. Yes, I asked for this. And when my prayer is answered, but it is not wrapped in a pretty bow and looking like a blessing, very quickly I'm ready to say, this ain't from God. How do you strengthen patience, Stephanie? You test it. How do you test it? You face situations that call for you to be patient, even if it's situations that don't feel good, even if it's situations that are painful, challenging, can cause distress. You asked God to help you strengthen your patience. And so, yes, here are some moments to do just that. Can you make a conscious decision in these moments? Now, therapist hat on, right? If I'm being impatient with something, right? 9 times out of 10, if I'm frustrated, I am triggered. Something here bothered me. I'm triggered because it didn't go my way. I'm triggered because this is not what I had intended. I'm triggered because it doesn't look the way that I intended it for it to look. I'm triggered because my plans got disrupted, and I can't embrace that disruption. So I have to step away, right? Because when we talk about triggers, and we talk about triggers being, if it's a trauma response, you have to be able to address that trauma from a rational, coherent state of mind. That trigger. I mean, not the trauma. The trauma that you address that in therapy. Yeah, get some support around that. But you can't. No, addressing the trigger. You have to be able to be in a coherent state of mind, right? You have to be able to understand and make a conscious decision and be present in that. But you cannot be present if you physically feel unsafe or if you cannot emotionally regulate yourself. So if I am in a moment where I am frustrated and I am triggered because I cannot be patient in this moment and something did not go according to plan, the first thing that I need to do is say, am I physically safe? My surroundings. Do I need to take space? Do I need a minute? Do I need to separate myself? Do I need to go into somewhere else? What does my body physically need right now? Right? How can I help my body get grounded? One of my favorite things to do is when I'm outside, try to see how many different birds I can hear chirping at once. You might think you only hear one, but when you pause and you really listen, you'll hear like 6, 7 different birds making really different sounds. That helps me get grounded, right? I do this body scan from head to toe. It's just kind of noticing what my body's feeling. Making sure you're trying to regulate your breathing and your heart rate. That's something that comes like taking very deep, intentional, like belly breaths and following them through. Box breathing for me is like my go-to. Why? Because it's so easy. And it helps, because it's your body that is having this initial reaction. Your body doesn't know what or where you are. It just knows that it doesn't like this feeling and you need to get the hell out. Once you're able to get your body where it needs to be, you need to get your emotions regulated, right? If I have noticed I'm home and my frustration is because the dishes have been sitting there and they've been piling up and why do I always, and it's not that I always have to do it, this is just an example, y'all, but trigger, okay, I have to do the dishes. Like, I'm so tired of this. Like, why can't we wash as we go? I don't understand. I am frustrated. I am impatient about it because it's supposed to be on my time because I have these expectations. I am triggered, but I am home. So I'm safe. Usually for me, when I'm frustrated like that, I'm gonna go take a shower. I need to take a shower. I need to go get away from everybody, and I'm gonna go take a shower. So I've separated, right? So my body is where it needs to be, in the warm, hot lava water, getting calm. That's me. And then what do? I need to regulate my emotions. I need to validate my emotions. Okay. That may not always be something that you could do for yourself. Sometimes it helps if we have those around us that can understand that. Like if my husband said, like, you know what, you are completely right because I should have washed the dishes as I go. It's like it's like a hidden message in here. Wash the dishes. But no. So that validation, if you can give it to yourself, great. Sometimes we need allies to do that for us, but I go and I take a shower and I'm like, no, like I am right to feel the way that I do. And I'm valid in my emotion. It is frustrating because I do have a certain kind of way that I choose to hold myself accountable for me. Because there's something I need to understand in this scenario is that I cannot control anyone around me. So as many times as I tell my husband, wash as you go, he doesn't have to. I can't make him. So when I start to recognize like, okay, my emotions are valid, but there's certain things that are within my control, outside of my control, like finding kind of peace in that. Cry. I love crying. I have a healthy relationship with crying. I think that crying is so healing. And just really, it lets out so much. So I've put my body into the shower. That's my physical. I've regulated my emotions. I've cried. I've let it out. I've validated myself. I am now preparing to enter a coherent state of mind where I can make a conscious decision on whatever triggered me. I can come out and choose to stay dysregulated and probably trigger everybody around me. Or I can figure out the best way to communicate this, right? This is where the divine intervention is, right? This is where I then, okay, God, I did all the things. Guide me in my next move. Am I choosing to be offended by this and be bothered by this even after I go back out and re-engage in the environment, am I needing to have a conversation about my feelings around it? Like, what do I need to do now that is going to help increase my patience, decrease my impatience and my impulsivity, and is speaking to your will, right? And that looks different for everybody. So all of that to say that embracing disruption is hard. Embracing disruption requires a coherent mindset. And you, to be able to do that, you have to be able to be grounding your body, understanding what it needs, understanding its safety, giving that attention to your physical self, going then into emotional regulation that only comes from validation, that you can give that to yourself. And if you can't, that's the kind of conversation that you are looking for in that moment, is validation, right? We're not looking for someone to necessarily solve everything, more so that I need someone to kind of be in this with me, hold space. And for me, I don't always necessarily have that someone, right? I'm going to turn to God. I'm going to turn to Christ. I'm going to go in that direction and say, like, this is where I need to be right now, because this level of comfort that I need can only be fulfilled from you. So in those moments, I'm able to step aside and say, okay, I didn't get as mad that time. Like, my patience is being tested so it can be strengthened, right? Which is forcing me to look at my triggers and stay more present in them. So I am stepping out of the thought of tomorrow and the anxiety that tomorrow can bring, because I'm forcing myself to be more present so that I can have the mindset that I need to cope through the challenges and the trials presenting themselves to me as part of this prayer of strengthening my patience. And let me tell you guys, that's, I understand, easier said than done. And this is just me sharing what I'm experiencing and what I'm going through, and the prayer that I had, the one prayer, that's one. I've prayed several. But one of the things that stood out to me as I've been reading the Bible and studying a little bit more was, again, embracing the disruption. If I hadn't had this trip to Maine booked, right, all excited for this, if Evelyn, my baby, didn't have that injury, would I have ever had a reason to pray that prayer? Would I have ever asked God to intervene? To intervene when it comes to my patience? Probably not in that moment, because it wasn't something that I thought was a problem. I thought I was the most patient person. Lesson learned. So there was this, there's this story in the Bible of Joseph, who gets sold into slavery by his brothers, and he says something so just so inspiring, and it's perspective, right? When we talk about anybody embracing disruption, so he goes and he's sold into slavery by his brothers, and he's sold to the Egyptians, but he develops a relationship with Pharaoh, and he becomes his right hand, basically. He's out here just, doing the thing, because he's told him, like, famine is coming. This is what you got to do. All the things. Cool. So he's doing what he's doing. And during the famine, his brothers come, not realizing it's him. And they're like, we need food. And he recognizes his brothers. Now, in that moment, the level of patience that he had to have to just not lose it. And I mean, he put his brothers in jail and, asked for the whole thing. Go read it. But there's this moment where he said something so profound, right? And it's, I'm going to pull it up right here. It's Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. And y'all, talk about perspective, right? He's sitting here saying, like, yeah, y'all definitely tried to basically murk me and count me out. But God took that opportunity and he provided divine intervention and gave it purpose. Y'all, he gave it purpose. He was completely derailed from his entire life in a very abrupt, traumatic way. Triggered, capital T, fight, flight, freeze, appease, all of them, all the things. And still in the entail of it all can say, this was God. This was God. Had it not been for that really messed up moment in my life, I wouldn't be right here saving the lives of others, y'all included. That's the other thing. He had so much opportunity to just boast about it a certain kind of way. He didn't. Still stayed very humble in it. And that really just kind of gave more insight to this embracing disruption, right? Because you could fight with God. You can fight with whatever it is that you're presented. You can fight against it all you want. But what's for you is going to find you, whether it be in a beautiful way or in a hard way. It's for you. It's going to find you, right? So accepting that disruption is a part of life and being able to embrace it and understand that a blessing may not always present itself in that way in the moment, because there are things that we need to go through to be able to reach the next version of ourselves, right? And now listen, you're going to hear me talk about my relationship with God and Christ and my faith and all of that throughout this journey. Along with like the mental health piece, yes. But for you, that could be different. For you, it could be a higher power, source, universe, whatever it is. It's all to say sometimes we need something more bigger than us, more powerful than us. And we need to call on that. And for me, it's God. And for me, it's Christ. And so when I think about my podcast, 2 years, y'all, 2 years I was sitting on this. I'm like, oh no, it has to be like this and it has to be like that. And I want to make sure I put it all in. Whatever. I had 1,000 reasons as to why it wasn't ready. Never really looking at the whole purpose of it is I have something to say. I have a lot of things to say, but it was a podcast is for speaking, right? I knew I wanted to speak, and I was looking for what I wanted to speak about. It has to be this thing. What's going to appease to everyone around me? What do people want to hear? And it's like, that none of that sat with me, right? And I had the name. I had the name for a long time. And like I said, the name came, that's a whole nother story, but it came as a joke. Purposely Derailed came as a joke. And it stuck. And now when I think about the fact that I'm sitting here talking about embracing disruption, I'm like, that's essentially the same thing I'm talking about. My entire life changed in June when I left my big company job, and I took a leap of faith with God. And it's been a leap of faith every single day since. And I've never had more peace in my heart. And as I enter October, things are going to look very different in a very beautiful way. And again, I wouldn't be here in this moment had not God taken me through a process that required me to live off faith, not understand what the next day was going to look like, understand that he was going to provide and that he was going to show up, but that it was not in my control, because nothing was in my control these last couple months. But he did not fail. No, he did not. And he's not going to start now. And so now as I enter this new season of my life, and I think about where we're going and my family and everything, and it's just like, I am so excited. I have so much peace in my heart. But God made the time for me, right? Because my biggest excuse with filming the podcast was the level of effort to put everything up and take it all down because I want it to be a video podcast. I have it to all be a video podcast. And no, right now, God just said, start with the very basics. You and the mic. So that's what I'm doing. And so he derailed me on purpose. He derailed me from a job that he knew I was not going to leave because it was comfortable. It was comfortable. It was well paid, and it gave me control. But I was not happy. I was not at peace. And then the parts that he took away, because he gives and he takes, right? The parts he took away, whereas I'm taking away the control. I am changing a lot, but I am giving you autonomy. And I am giving you time. And that is the blessing in the process, right? And so I don't know what tomorrow holds. I'm not going to give myself anxiety about tomorrow. I just know that today, this is what God wanted me to do. And let me tell you, if you would have told me a year ago that this is what I was going to be talking about and doing, I would have laughed in your face. Not because I don't believe in him, but because I've never been one to really be this open about my belief system. I think going to school for my profession, we learn to have these really strong boundaries about the things that we talk about and don't talk about. And like, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion and therapy, like all that. And yes, but this isn't, I'm not doing therapy right now. I am openly sharing a part of my life, because this is a part of my purpose, and that's where I'm meant to be right now. And so for anybody who may have tuned in, anybody who enjoyed this, one of you, none of you, all of you, whatever, just know that this is very open and honest, and I don't want to tell myself that I'm going to have a specific schedule to follow. I'm just following the path that God has laid out for me. And so hopefully you keep tuning in. Hopefully you like what you hear. And I have a lot of goals for this podcast and things that I would like to see happen, but his will be done, not mine. All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed. I'm going to check you all out. Thanks for tuning in to the Purposely Derailed podcast. For more information about me or about my books, Ollie the Calming Elf and Ellie the Meditation Elf, please visit my website at www.beneaththehealing.com. And remember, go out and live the best life that you can, as it is in His will.